Do you ever find yourself bogged down in micro tasks or collecting shiny objects and spending lots of time with those things, only to realize down the road you have lost sight of the goals that you set for yourself? It's hard to keep track of that long game, especially being a micro business owner and somebody who has to do all the things themselves. And, you're constantly moving from one task to another or constantly looking at new ideas and resources. It can feel really easy to fall into the trap of spending all of your admin time on micro tasks and a lot of your off time chasing shiny objects. And when we do that, we might find ourselves in a place months down the line where we've lost sight of our big why. We've lost sight of the goals that we've set for ourselves because we haven't been able to keep the long game in mind when we're making business decisions. So if you've ever felt that way, know that you are in good company, and that's what we're going to be exploring today. We're going to look at how we can keep sight of the long game in our studio, and if you don't know what your long game is, we are going to be examining how we can establish our long games and keep them front and center. So if you are joining me live, please be sure to say hello and let me know where you're tuning in from. And I'd love to know about your long game. If you're catching this on the replay, know that I come back through weeks and months later on. I get notifications for when you comment. So join in like it's live and have fun with us. Today we are going to be examining five different things. I came up with five. Never mind. We're going to be looking at five different ways that we can establish long games in our studios and make sure that we are really honing in on those long games so that all of the little stuff doesn't take us off track. Welcome to the broadcast, everyone. My name is Sara Campbell, and I am a business strategist, marketing, and mindset coach for music studio owners and online education experts just like yourself. And you can find us live here every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern, where we talk about all of those topics, where we break down the strategies that you need to have in order to run a successful music studio, where we look at the marketing that you need to get in place so that you can attract the right kind of clients to you, and where we examine the mindsets that we need to have in place so that those business strategies and that marketing will actually work. So welcome to the broadcast. I'm so glad that you're here today. Good morning, afternoon, Jennifer Campbell from Washington State. I see Leanne Wade here is from Stockton, California, and we have Elizabeth Kisselstein tuning in from Central New York. If you have teacher friends who could benefit from this conversation, I invite you to bring them along with us. Let them know about this broadcast and that it's happening right now. And, send it out to the people that you love because, hey, we're all in this together. And I firmly believe that there are enough music students in the world to fill every single independent music teacher studio and the multi-teacher studios. We aren't forgetting you. So let them know about this and let's get started, shall we? We've got great stuff going on today. You know that we love to learn out loud. And so if you hear something in today's broadcast that is valuable to you and you would like to put that into practice, I invite you to give us your hashtag takeaway below and let us know what that was. It does a couple of different things when we do this learning out loud together. One, it reinforces what you're learning, right? We tell this to our music students all the time. Write it down. Like, did you write that in your score? I can tell you what, after this last year of teaching solely online, my students have gotten a lot better at writing stuff in their own scores. And we have continued that tradition as we have started to transition back to in person. So give us your hashtag takeaways so that you can reinforce what you're learning and also to make it a valuable experience for those who are joining in on the replay. They can see all those takeaways and know instantly what we're talking about. Hey there, Linda's tuning in from North Carolina. Nice to see you. Good to see you this morning. All right, so let's get to it. I do have the Savvy Sara bot set up. So if you drop a long game below, she is going to deliver the show notes from today so you can get a succinct little paragraph about what we were talking about and all the tips that we're going over. She's also going to send you information about the blog, because we've been working really hard over at Savvy Music Studio to bring the blog back to life. And we've got new content that's coming out for you. We just had a brand new blog post that came out last week, and we've got a new one coming up next week that I think you're really going to enjoy. So if you aren't already on the email list, the Savvy Sara bot will show you how to join that. Wonderful. I see lots of long games coming in here. Hey there, Pam. Nice for you to tune in. She's coming in from Georgia. All right, let's get to, oh, hey, Sadie, the music lady's tuning in from the UK. So nice to see you, my friend. Okay, let's get to it. Keeping sight of the long game in your music studio. Now, we're going to get into like some definitions of these terms, but I just wanted to say, and it's kind of silly for me to say, but I've taken the term long game from golf. And those who know me know that I like yoga and cats and gardening, or half-hearted gardening, as I say, and camping. I'm not much of a sports person, so forgive me if I do drop any sports analogies and they land flat. But long game, right, is where we are ultimately headed. Right? And we want to keep that long game in mind so we can get to that little hole at the end of at the end of the golf course, or hole, or whatever they call those things. And of course, short game in mind as well. But today we're talking about long game and how we can establish long games in our studio and keep them front and center so that we actually achieve the things that we want to achieve. So I'm going to invite you today to be sharing some of your long game goals with us. I can't wait to discover what you want to do in your music studio. It's going to be exciting. All right, so let's get to the first point here. What is your long game? We are talking about two things here. We're talking about big whys, and we're talking about big goals. So this is something that's been top of mind for me over the past several weeks as I've started working with some new one-on-one clients. And one of the first things that we do is we sit down and we get real about why is it that you do what you do? And what is it that you want to achieve by doing that? So the first step, if you haven't really thought about your long game, is to sit down and ask yourselves those questions. What is my big why? Why do I own a piano studio? Why do I own a voice studio? Ask yourself, what is the big why behind what you do? And then start uncovering that answer. Spend some time with it, journal with it, have a little fun. And then we ask ourselves, what is the goal of this why? So for instance, I'll give some examples, right? So I should say right now, long games will change over time. The reason that you opened your studio when you first started is completely different than why you have your studio today. Why did I open Sara's music studio to begin with? Well, to be honest, I needed a job. And I found that I had certain skills in place and that working for myself was something that I really enjoyed. And so I wanted to have a place where I could share those skills with other people and make a good living. So that was the initial long game. Now that, as time progresses and the studio's been open for 11 years now, that why has shifted. So then I ask myself, why am I teaching piano and voice at Sara's music studio? And for right now, my long game is quite different than what it was in the past. My long game now is to provide super customized music experiences with people who are interested in exploring the music that they love. They want to learn about composition. They want to pursue different goals outside of music, like becoming a drum major or going to college. So I've honed that long game in to really focus on my ideal clients. So I would love to know from those who are watching right now, what was your long game? Let's play a little game here, right? What was your long game when you first opened your studio? And then how has your long game shifted over the years. So give that some thought, right? What was your long game when you first started? And what is the long game now? And how is it different? And just so you know, it's okay for it to be different now. You're the boss, and you get to make the big goals. You get to set the whys. And so if you find yourself in a place in your studio where that goal has really shifted and maybe you recognize it and maybe you don't recognize it. Just a side note here, if you're not recognizing that the goal has shifted, you may find yourself in a less comfortable place than you thought. And you may be irritated with your job or irritated with your boss, aka you. And so if you are finding yourself in that spot, it may be time to revisit the long game and really establish the big whys and goals. So that's the first place that we're starting, right? Now we need to start examining how to keep that long game front and center, because as I mentioned at the top of the broadcast here, it is very easy to lose sight of the long game. And I know I say this phrase over and over again, but you wear a lot of different hats and you have a lot of things that you need to do in order to run your business. And it's simple for those things to distract us from the big whys and to distract us from the big goals. Here we go. So Julie's sharing, I started by getting as many students as I could to fill every spot. Now I only teach my ideal students. So look at that big shift, right? Look at that big shift. I'll share another short example here. When I first started blogging, because blogging's been front and center for me lately, my friends, because we are working so hard over on the blog. When I first started blogging, the goal was just to share what I was doing, right? And it was fun. I really enjoyed it a lot. But now the blog has shifted into being a place that we're developing so that it's searchable, it's easy to look up specific topics, and we're getting really focused in on, okay, these are the business topics, these are the marketing topics, these are the mindset topics, here are the tech topics. So we have all of these different categories in mind. So what started as I'm just going to share what I'm doing in my studio has shifted into, okay, now I know people want specific things and they're coming to me with specific questions. How can I create content that gives them something valuable and makes it easy to find? So long game has shifted there, and the why has shifted as well. So let's focus in on how do we make sure to keep these long games in mind. Most of the time when people come to me and they find themselves in that uncomfortable space where they're not liking their boss anymore, and they are not having as much fun as they used to running a music studio, there are a couple different reasons. One, they've lost sight of the long game, or the long game has shifted and they haven't recognized that yet and haven't, dug deep to discover what is it that I really want to do. And some of the symptoms of that or the reasons behind it, is that they have found themselves bogged down in what I call micro tasks and distracted by shiny objects. So the time that they would normally spend making sure that that long game and the big whys and the big goals are front and center, that time has been stolen. And so we need to understand the micro tasks and shiny objects that steal time. So once we start to sit down and develop, this is my long game, here are the goals that I have in mind, here are my big why, then we need to get really specific about what are the things that steal my time. So what you can do is sit down and make a couple of lists. Make a list of all the micro tasks that happen in your studio that take up a lot of admin time. Let's share some of those things right now, shall we? I'll list a couple, and I would love to know what micro tasks you find yourself spending a lot of time on. So for me, one of the big micro tasks is email, right? So responding to email is one of the things that takes up the most amount of time in my business. And so I have to remind myself consistently to examine how much time I'm spending in that email inbox, and responding to whether it's clients that are working with me or maybe it's prospectives, really examining how much time I'm doing there and thinking about how can I make this easier. So email is one of the micro tasks. Some of the micro tasks that I used to find inside of my studio would be picking out books for students, or finding recital music, or responding to parent texts. I'd love to know what some of your micro tasks are. Maybe it's something like making social media posts or writing newsletters. Ooh, Elizabeth's got a good one. Cutting and laminating games. Fun but time consuming. And now you know what I'm doing while I watch the live. Well, I'm glad to be along with you here while you do your micro task. Yes. Oh, Julie, this is good stuff. I'm going to get to that. I see that a couple comments here. Christine, her blog has also shifted. It used to be kind of random and expressing. Now it's becoming much more outwardly focused. Elizabeth says she started as a flute person. Now she's shifted into doing different types of instruments in her studio and different types of delivery. Excellent. Okay, so we need to understand what are the micro tasks that take up all of our time, and we make a big list of them. Ooh, good one, Jennifer. Making accompaniment recordings for voice students. Oh, I feel you on that. I used to spend a lot of time doing that. Nowadays, I'm using things like pianotracks.com, Appcompanist, and a lot of YouTube karaoke tracks. And I know it feels like I'm cheating, but I tell you what, it's freed up a lot of my time. Okay, so we make a list of all the micro tasks. The next thing you're going to do is make a list of all the shiny objects, because there's a lot of shiny objects out there in the world. So what do I mean by this? I am talking about courses. I am talking about, new games. I'm talking about new resources. What's the newest and greatest thing that people are talking about in forums? And so, making sure that we are aware of the shiny objects is really important. So you want to sit down and think about what are the things that steal time away from me focusing in on the long game and making sure that I am taking steps towards that long game. Because if you have a big goal in mind, like opening a new studio space, and yet you find yourself, oh, I'm going to learn how to do this new scheduling system for social media, or I'm going to take this course that's about how to use Canva, or all of these different shiny objects. Oh, I'm going to buy this new membership program that has all this stuff in it. That's fine as long as we can keep a balance and have that long-term plan in mind. Yeah. Cat's not letting me focus on what I'm doing. Big shiny object. Yes. Yeah. Hashtag takeaway. Online apps for accompaniments. I mean, I tell you what, they're worth their weight in gold. We've got another takeaway, shiny objects. Yeah. So if you have shiny objects that have been distracting you lately, I want you to share what those shiny objects are, if you feel so inclined. So we can put that out into the universe and just build awareness around the time that you're spending on those things. Ah, yes. Christine says, my shiny object is enrolling in too many courses. Yeah. And Julie says, don't buy courses that you will never use, right? Just because you see that it's on sale or whatever, oh my goodness. Yes. Yay. Great. Hey there, Lisa. It was so lovely chatting with you yesterday. It was yesterday. Yes. For new resources, I've just had to download what I think I'll use in the future and then save them. I'll look at them again in the summer when I'm lesson planning for next semester. Oh, I like that. So you're not getting too bogged down in what you're doing with that. Excellent. So once we have looked at the long game and we've identified the micro tasks and the shiny objects that might distract us, Then we need to make our long game visible. So this is why I didn't bring Julie's comment up yet, but it totally takes me where I want to go, because Julie knows. She says she finds it very helpful to have a vision board or notebook to keep my goals in front of me. And that is exactly what we want to do. We want to make our long game visible. I do this for myself in a couple different ways. I am a whiteboard kind of girl, and I have lots of small and big whiteboards around my office. I'm looking at them right now. And hilariously, I can't show it to you because I can't move the iMac, but hilariously, one of the whiteboards that I have is currently hanging on the wall is upside down, because when I took it down onto the floor to write on it, I didn't realize I was writing the wrong direction. So right now my whiteboard's upside down. But the long game is there, and I just have not brought myself to actually fix it. So you want to put your long game in a visible place. Perhaps that's having a whiteboard with goals on it. Perhaps that is building a vision board, something that's fancy, things, with pictures of the vacations that you're going to go on, and pictures of the new studio space that you want to create. Whatever you need in order to make it visible, put that long game in a place where you see it and that you're reminded of it consistently, so that when we find ourselves with those micro tasks and shiny objects, we know that that long game is still there. All right, so make your long game visible in whatever way you want. So I'd love to know, what kind of way would you like your long game to be visible? Do you want to do a vision board? Do you want to have a whiteboard with lists? Would it feel good to have a notebook or a journal where you get to visit that long game consistently? Or if you have other ideas, share them with us. All right, let's keep chugging along. I have 2 questions that I want you to consider, and I hope that these will be helpful as you start to consider the long game. And if I'll pause right now and say, if you are enjoying this, let me know right now by showing me some hearts and maybe some thumbs or something like that, to let me know that this is resonating with you. I see so many of you here, and it's lovely to have you. Yes, Julie, I just have to get frustrated that the goals aren't happening tomorrow. I know, my friend. I feel you hard on that. Okay, so the first question, you have all your long game figured out. You've got the list of the micro tasks and the list of the shiny objects. And then when you find yourself spending too much time with those things, I want you to ask yourself this question: does this task / shiny object serve your long game? So, I meant to mention this earlier, but this is a good one. Another example of a shiny object is a potential client. Hear me out on this one. So once you've really developed your long game and you've figured out what you want to do, you may find yourself getting clearer on who you want to work with. And old habits die hard, right? So when a perspective comes to you and you get that you get that reaction, right? You're like, ooh, somebody new. And the old you might have, in the old long game, right, that might have served the purpose. So like when I first opened the studio, my goal was to make a living, right? To be able to have a job that sustained what I wanted to do. And so at that time, I was in what Michelle Marquette DeVoe calls warm body mode. And so I was accepting anybody that came to my studio. Once my studio was really up and running and doing well, though, the long game shifted. And I realized that I was not happy teaching everybody who came in through the door or everybody who called me on the phone. And so then sometimes prospective clients became shiny objects. And I really had to ask myself the hard question: would taking on this client serve my long game? Right? That's a hard one. And it's something that I still wrestle with. So when you find yourself spending a lot of time or thought on something, that, this small task or this shiny object or this prospective client, I want you to ask yourself that question. Does this shiny object, does this prospective client serve the long game? And then we have one more question to ask before we get to it. I just want to say we've got, oh yes, hashtag takeaway, make a vision board. Ooh, that would be a good task for you over the next couple of weeks there, Lisa. I think that'd be awesome. Sally says she's working on several different things, some time for family, trying to divide my time. I think the vision board would be good. Thanks. Maybe we should do like a whole training on making vision boards. That could be kind of fun, wouldn't it? All right, final question, final point for today. Decide. How can you make more time for the LG? I had to put LG because otherwise it wouldn't fit across the page. So, how can you make more time for this? What does that look like in your business? What does that look like in your life? So, if your long game is to spend more time with your kids, as they, maybe they're in high school and you're only going to have one more year with them. If your long game is to spend more time with your kids, what does that look like? How does that shift all the micro tasks that you're doing and the shiny objects that show up in your life? How does it change things? So when you have all that stuff that's like flying at you and you're just like moving from thing to thing, moving from task to task, take a pause. Ask if it serves you, and then make the decision. Do I need to do this thing, or do I need to make more time for the long game and the actual tasks that are going to help me towards that long game? So those are the main points today. Let's do a rapid recap of everything that we went over today. Let's do it. So, our goal as business owners is to keep sight of the long game in our music studio, which can be really difficult because you are constantly switching hats and doing different tasks and doing different things. And by the end of the day, you've run out of time and you've had no time to work towards that long game, that vision that you have in your brain, right? In your heart. And so it is important to keep these 5 things in mind when we are keeping sight of the long game in your music studio. If you do want to get a hold of the notes from this, drop a long game below and I will set you up with all of the good stuff. So let's look at those 5 things real quick here. Number 1, you need to understand the long game. So you've got to sit down and you've got to make that vision and plan it out. You have to ask yourself, what are the big whys? Why am I doing what I do? And what is the goal? What are the goals around doing those things? And get real serious about it. Make lists, sit down with your whiteboard, make some journals, make your vision board, get real about what the long game is. And keep in mind that the long game shifts over time. So your reasons for starting your studio in the first place are probably vastly different 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road. So it's good to revisit this on the regular. Once you have established that long game and you understand your whys and your goals, then it's time to understand the micro tasks and the shiny objects that may steal time away from that long goal. So make the list. What are all the micro tasks that take up tons of time in your business? What are the shiny objects that distract you? Make those lists and put it in a place where you can see them. Then make your long game visible. Once you have decided those goals, the big whys, put them in a place that you can see them and visit them on the regular. Maybe that's a beautiful looking vision board that hangs in your studio. Maybe it's a journal that you keep on the regular, or maybe it's a whiteboard that has lists of those goals so that you can see them. I even have a giant Post-it note. If you've ever seen the giant Post-it notes, I think they're like almost 3 foot by 2 foot. They're giant. I have one of those hanging up right behind this computer here so that I can see what those big goals are. And when I feel lost, I can revisit them. So make it visible and then ask yourself these 2 questions. Ask yourself, does this task serve the long game? Is this shiny object going to serve the long game and get real with the answers. And if you've done the homework on item number 1, this should be a pretty simple question to ask. But just know, sometimes coming to the answer can feel a little uncomfortable, and that's okay because your business changes over time, as does your goals. So ask yourself the big question: does this serve my long game? And then once you ask yourself that question, make a decision. How can you make more time for that algae? How can you make more time to figure out what steps you need to take in order to reach that ultimate goal? So I hope that you enjoyed this. If you'd like to learn more about this, please be sure to drop a long game below and we will send you good stuff and we'll make sure that you can get a hold of that. Don't forget that we've been working hard on the blog, and if you want to start getting new blog updates, because we've got brand new blogs that are coming out, all fancy, lots of information in them. If you want to get a hold of that, make sure that you are on the email list. And if you put a long game here, the Savvy Sara bot will send it to you. Oh, you're so welcome, Julie. Thank you so much for being here today and contributing to this conversation. I absolutely love it. Ooh, and Sadie, I'm excited to hear more about your relocation. This looks really excellent. Thank you so much for being here, everyone. If you have a teacher friend who could benefit from this conversation, please take a moment to tell them about it right now. That would be the biggest thank you that I could receive, and that really would warm my heart. If you liked today's broadcast, give us some love and know that I will be back here soon. My name is Sara Campbell. I'm a business strategist, mindset, and marketing coach for music studio owners and online education experts just like yourself. And you can find me here every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time, where we talk about all those things. So until next week, stay savvy and stay you, because there's no one quite like you in the world. There's no teacher quite like you. And I think you're pretty dang awesome. So we will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.